Hi, this is John Wolf, and I'd like to welcome you back to the Wind of the Soul podcast. This is episode number 2, and it's titled Astral Projection. In today's episode, I will be talking about my experiences on the astral plane, as well as some ideas and theories about the out-of-body state. And a little bit later, I will be discussing some of my favorite books pertaining to this subject matter. Out-of-body experiences began in my adult life at about age 26. At that time, I was having some issues with panic attacks and trying to calm my nerves, reach a more grounded place within myself. So I started employing some guided meditation tapes. Wasn't looking to do anything specific with them other than feel a little bit better. Had never been interested, even though I was highly interested in the metaphysical, I had never been interested in pursuing astral projection or anything along these lines at all. I had never even really read about astral projection when I was younger. Most of my time was spent looking into ghosts and things of that nature, but not anything about the out-of-body state. During probably the second week of the meditations, I started noticing I was reaching very altered states of consciousness. And in these states, I would feel like my identity and awareness was slipping. I would experience numbness of the limbs. I experienced falling sensations. I also encountered a situation where I felt like I was being crushed and compacted. And it does not feel like it's coming from a point of my physical body. The awareness is removed. The awareness is not necessarily lifted out when these symptoms are occurring, but it's almost like it's set aside slightly from the physical body. At a later point, once the symptoms really subside, is when I feel the lift. And when all of these symptoms are occurring, there's also simultaneously there's sounds within my room quite frequently. I will be alone in the house, however, I will hear someone walking on the floor in my room, shuffling through the carpet. And it's a house, it's not an apartment, so there's nobody around me or above me that's causing this. I also hear my name called out when I'm experiencing these symptoms. There's frequent, and I can't explain this, but it seems like the intensity of popping sounds in my room are on the rise at that time as well, whether it's coming from the TV, even if the television has not been on, the dresser in my room. And while naturally homes settle, I understand that in the evening hours and things like this, this is just ultra intense, much more pronounced than normal. Now, once the actual lift out of the body takes place, once I feel that separation, I get to a point to where, and this took me some doing to start understanding how to go about being able to see once you're fully detached from the physical body. Some people may say, well, are you really detached? Are you dreaming? Are you imagining this? What's the situation? I've had lucid dreams. I'm not much of a lucid dreamer. I have mentioned that on my blog before. I've had totally what I call unconscious dreams, even though I remember them. Basically, I'm out of it, and I'm just a pawn. It feels like I'm being moved about in my dream. Lucid dreams, I should go back and explain that. It's actually where you have full awareness and control over the dream scenario. All of the sequences that are unfolding, you can totally alter them. You can change them at will, basically. I have experienced what I call the twilight zone before, which is kind of jumping back and forth between the sleep state and awareness of being awake. And these altered states that happen to me during the out-of-body experience they don't fall within this range. They're totally different. While they can be spurred on from any one of these states, they exist on their own. They exist separately from an awareness that we would associate with lucid dreaming, regular dreams, the twilight zone as I call it, or natural waking awareness in the manner that you're hearing my voice right now. And once, as I said, I've made a detachment from the physical body, which technically I don't think that our consciousness is not located within our physical selves. You can't look to a point in the body and say, okay, my soul is in my heart region of the body. My soul is in the head region of my body. I don't believe that. I feel that consciousness is viewing everything from an outside point of view, basically. We receive the impression that we are seeing through our physical eyes. I look at that as more of a virtual reality type simulator that our higher self, our consciousness, our awareness is actually utilizing to have these experiences. I feel that the out-of-body feeling, the connection, the disconnecting with the physical self ties back to this virtual reality type simulator. It's as if, okay, we've shifted into a different mode of the simulation as soon as we go out of body, as soon as our consciousness goes quote unquote in body. It's just a phase shift, basically dimensionally speaking, however you want to look at that. But it's very holographic in nature. And the reason that I got a little sidetracked here on that is because I wanted to kind of lay a foundation for talking about the way we see things on the astral plane, which is the terminology that's used when we phase shift away from this physical environment into a location that appears to be pretty much an energy duplicate of this environment. Once in that environment, it's all about feeling and sensing of things. You're not using your physical eyes. You don't see things in the same manner. It has more to do with kind of an interpretation. And that interpretation is spot on, 99% of the time. Now, during the initial experiences, the majority of things that I went through were primarily symptoms, as I call them, the things that I described earlier, the numbness of the body. I felt falling sensations. I felt like I was being crushed. I even felt an expansion of my consciousness. And I just spoke on the crushing and expanding sensations in a recent blog post titled Astral Projection and the Big Bang. It took a few months of practicing with the meditation, practicing with the out-of-body state, learning how to feel my way around and then start sensing my environments, because initially I went into those areas totally blind. I was expecting to be able to kind of see in the same way that you see with your physical eyes. Some authors have discussed there are techniques for helping your vision on the astral plane. I didn't find that was all that beneficial. I just had to sort of feel my way through the environments until I was grasping that it's about an awareness and a sensing, very similar to how information is communicated to us in our dream states at nighttime. It's sort of a telepathic type thing. Very similar also, I would assume, as to how psychics receive their information. It's almost like a download of information that is given to us. Well, that's what happens in the out-of-body state. It's a download of information that happens about the perceptions of what's around us, of painting a portrait or a picture, if you will, about the environment that we're in. Once I learned that, I was able to release my determination, you could say, for needing to see with my physical eyes. My eyes would stay closed during the experience, yet I wanted to be able to see things as crisp and as just solid as how we think of being able to use our eyes to view. That was not the case at the out-of-body state. I found that I had to release that determination. I had to just allow it to develop naturally. And as I did that, I was starting to have experiences that were verifications to me of the legitimacy of astral travel. I became very aware of my home on the astral plane. I started being able to sense my room when I was in the out-of-body state. I started having encounters such as the one that I touched on in my blog about viewing my clock in the astral and then verifying it, pulling myself out of the astral state, out of the meditation, and then verifying the time exactly, down to the minute precisely I had envisioned it. I also had encounters where I found other entities within my home on the astral plane. I just recently talked about that in a post as well, about a shadow that I came across on the stairwell leading up to the upper floor of the house. But aside from this, the more interesting experiences that I had were possibly not even connected to my physical environment, what I think of as my physical home. I've encountered locations